What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another session of Coffee and Martial Arts. Salute, 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 cheers. Oh, man. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. Yes. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to have you back, to have you here on the show. We have a great show today. As usual, every time we get Maestro Brye Cooper here in the show, it gets very interesting. We get to have a very interesting conversation, and we get going. So please send your questions and comments so we can feed from that and share what you think, what you have to say. Okay, so we've been having very good shows lately. Okay. But before we start, let me just remind you that we are going live through our Facebook page, Master Frank Soto Kinetic Dragon. Please like the page and follow us on Facebook. That really helps us to keep on promoting this podcast, okay? This podcast is for you guys, okay? It's made out of, the passion that we have for the art, okay? And what we're trying to do is share the art, okay? No politics, no angle, just bring in, all of these amazing martial artists to share their stories, their life experiences, their wisdom, their knowledge with you guys, okay? And it's all for free, basically. That's what it is, okay? So we are here to share the art and to give a positive feedback and a positive image for the newcomers, okay? We want new people coming in to the martial arts, to Kenpo, to Jiu-Jitsu, to any art, okay? All the arts, they're all good, okay? Good, so please like and share this video, okay? If you like it, share it with your friends, and if you don't, share it with your enemies. Like I said, I will annoy the crap out of them, okay? Just share it, please. Good. Also, we are going live through the International Hall of Fame page of Argentina. That's a great group of martial artists, okay, that they have their own magazine and their thing going on down there in Argentina, led by Maestro Juan Martín Álvarez. Saludos, okay? So we are very grateful that we can go live on their page as well, and we're also going live through our YouTube channel, the Kinetic Dragon. Yes, sir, Kinetic Dragon channel, okay? Just look for follow us there. Also, like the video, subscribe on the Kinetic Dragon channel, and click on the little bell so you get notified every time we go live. Okay, so today we have, before we go, International Hall of Fame. Saludos, maestros, Casa de la Cultura China, Santa Fe, Argentina. Abrazo de corazón from Sifu Ernesto Colbrenner. Saludos, Sifu, gracias. Okay, so today we have my good friend and collaborator. Yes, sir. Let's see. Aha. Okay. Street combative expert, Kenpo, and street combative expert, I should say, Maestro Brye Cooper. It's in the house.
Top of the morning to you, my friend. Top of the morning to you. Good to be back.
Good morning, Maestro. How you doing?
Great. Yeah, I'm doing great. Like I said, I was running around this morning hoping I could get here on time and have my coffee and martial arts, and I made it.
Good.
I was going to make it. I just got to make sure I had time to make a cup of coffee. But yeah, things are good, mate. Moving forward, progress, doing a lot of innovative stuff, I think. Well, getting a lot of great influences too. Doing a lot of research lately and stuff, which has been good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So what are we going to talk about today? I have a couple of questions for you, but I don't want to start with that. I want to just, keep on going. But I think I have a couple of interesting questions that I would like to get your answers, pick on your brain a little bit. But before we go there, you wanted to say something?
Well, yeah, and I'm listening to your intro there. I know we touched on it earlier. But I was watching, to the audience out there, I was just saying to Frank earlier that I was watching Larry Tatum's interview last week who was one of my instructors, former instructors. And I've spent a lot of years with Larry. And I felt as a Kenpoist, it was for us not picking, I thought it was the best Kenpo interview we've had so far. And one of the reasons for that is because we tend to forget the history, you know what I mean, of like the people that came before us and what their value is and how they've impinged on us. And, at my age now, I mean, I'm older than Larry was when I met him, or, a lot of the great guys I trained with were. And I was thinking about it, going, do you know what? There are 5 people that have, 5 people, there are only 5, I could come up with 5, that have had a major influence on me as a martial artist. Larry Tatum being one, and in no particular order, excluding Mr. Parker, obviously, because that's a given. We've trained and studied his art. Larry Tatum, Albert Conejo was a big influence on me as a man, as a when I first met Mike Pick for his combative stance on stuff and his influence, his mental influence too. Frank Trejo and Billy Blanks. Billy Blanks had a major influence on me as a now the influences that all those people had on me wasn't just the physical stuff. I mean, it's easy. You can get that from anyone. Every single one of those gentlemen made me a better teacher.
Wow.
I've taken lessons from all of them to this day and still apply them. I just got goosebumps there, mate. It's the spirits of martial arts, right? Even to this day, I still use lessons. And by the way, if anybody's out there listening, I always give credit where it's due. If I've got something from somebody, because I think that's important too.
Yes.
I'll say that I learned this from Larry Tatum, or blah blah this, and I learned this from Billy Blanks, or because it's important that we have that. Otherwise, if you don't have that, people don't know who to go to, what sources to go to, and what's legit and what's not legit. In the sense of like, you need the correct information. You know what I mean? You don't want to be speaking slang. You want to be articulate and fluid in whatever you're doing, and so you need to go to the right teachers to get that. And all of those, every one of those gentlemen is. I always bring this up now since you brought it up, but it makes you very nostalgic, and it makes you go, oh, man, you know what? Right. Those people really impinged on my life, and because of that, I've been able to do it for others. Teaching is like, being a better teacher makes you a better martial artist, 100%. And my take on that is, I'm sure you may agree or not, but being a better martial artist is it means my spirit is strong. It's not about how I can hit or how I can teach you to hit. It's about who am I as an individual, as a human being. Do I have good, because that's going to affect me mentally anyway. And also it validates your position in society, as does most teaching professions, because you're enhancing people. You're making their lives better. And it's a great, you know what I mean? It's that never-ending circle that we will lose if we don't acknowledge that with people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, yeah. So not to deviate, but you kind of do see, because there's so many people out there. There's a lot of information now. We have the internet, you know what I mean? There's a lot of information out there, and from all different systems and what have you, and anything in life. You can learn anything in life. Just go onto YouTube, you'll find out how to fix the faucet, right? But you got to be careful whose YouTube you're watching, because you might end up with leaks under the sink, if you get my drift.
Yeah. I got to say that I'm acknowledging your teachers. It's very, very important, because it gives you gratitude, right? And that's a good platform to move from, to do things from gratitude, instead of regret or something negative, right? And I got to say also, Mr. Tatum was also my instructor for many years, and one of the things that I find, there are two things that I always liked about him as an instructor. First, he never held anything back. If you wanted to learn, he will teach you. Right? That's one of the things that I remember perfectly when I started with him back in the 90s. And I trained with him like 10 years. I started with him like 10 years after you did. And I was this kid coming from Mexico, right? And I stayed at the studio on Green Street, right? And you kind of did the same. You were this kid coming from England, right? And you stayed at the studio as well, right? So that tells you a lot about this spirit in the martial arts, right? That camaraderie, that friendship, that brotherhood, that some instructor creates, and that's the case of Larry. I believe it is, because I've seen many guys staying there, and there were so many stories about people staying at the studio. And I remember when we stayed at the Green Street studio, Larry would say, "Well, you're not supposed to stay here, right? Because it's a business. If the landlord knows, it's going to be trouble. So sleep behind the office, right? Just put your sleeping bag behind the office so they won't see you at night." So,
it's important to know. It keeps you humble too, Frank. Because especially as we get, I'm only speaking for myself. As you get older, you acquire more knowledge and more skill sets and ability, and you're constantly trying to put that out there. Not that I don't, because I'm always researching, but you can. There are times where you'll forget that, hang on a minute, you're still a student too. And you need that mentality if you want to continue progressing and you're learning and acknowledging who came before you and your former instructors. It keeps you a bit centered, keeps you humble, you know what I mean? What you just said something there that was really interesting, and so much stuff that I was kind of into it, but it'll come back to me in a minute.
Don't worry, we have a question here. Somebody's saying hello. Good old Catherine Letter Sumter. Hey, Catherine.
How are you?
Hello. It says, "Hello, Master Frank and Master Brye. Any particular method you can pass on that you learned from your peers that made you a better teacher?"
Yeah. Do you know what? This was just popped into my head, and confidence. You have to have confidence, and those teachers gave me confidence because they were confident, and and at the time they were very confident in what they were doing, so they had that confidence. If you're a beginner teacher starting out, if you have a new school, and you're just a new black belt or whatever, and you're just trying to start out in whatever system, always maintain your confidence in yourself and your abilities now and in the future. Because if you're not there yet, you will get there. And that confidence always impinges on your students, always. Well, martial arts is 100% spiritual, right? It is. It's all from here and here. And if you have that, and that's what Larry gave me that. All of those 5 gentlemen I just named gave me that. They gave me that belief in myself, in the martial arts. Not all of them were Kenpoists. Well, they were. Billy Blanks wasn't. Although Billy Blanks had spent time in Mr. Parker and in his Budweiser teams and stuff like that. He knew people. I didn't know that till a while. I was training actually with Billy when I was still with Larry, but I was doing more like the sparring, the kicking, and all that stuff. But yeah, I would say confidence. Again, Larry Tatum wrote a book. Don't get me wrong. I hope it was out there. I don't want to speak more about one gentleman, but
no, don't.
That book, I think it was his first book. I'm pretty sure it was called "Confidence: A Child's First Weapon," and it's true. It's important. You have to be able to be confident in yourself in order to project that onto others, and so that they can have that too. Because when people walk onto a mat for the first time. I'm going to use that reference to get Larry again, actually, because he said this to me years ago. He said, "Brye, people come to the studio for you. In other words, they want to train with you. They could go anywhere. There's plenty of Kenpoists out there. There are plenty of Taekwondo, Jiu-Jitsu. Very competent, very good at what they do. But the fit has to be right. You know what I mean? And you'll have to have confidence in that person and trust. All that stuff needs to build, and you need to build that with your students. I always try. I take people individually. I always look at individuals. Everybody is individually unique, and I've studied other philosophies too, which helped. You know what I mean? But I always took every single person and still do individually, and I learned to do that from those people. to treat everybody as an individual, give everybody the right power of choice and self-determinism. If you can't do this, it doesn't make you less than. You know, I think I've shared that story with you before. The guy I worked with years ago couldn't read and write. He said, look, just because you can't read and write doesn't make you stupid. It just means you haven't learned yet. And then it's up to me then to give them the confidence to learn. So if anything of those lessons, I know I'm being a bit long-winded, Catherine, but yeah, confidence. Always project confidence, even when you're in doubt, because you'll always get there eventually. I mean, we all go through it. Man, I can't do that, or I can't. It's not working for me. Or if you're like sparring and stuff like that, and how many times have we felt like we're on a roll, and then some new kid comes on the mat, or you know, and you're getting your ass kicked around, and you're a black belt, and he's like, he's only a purple belt, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And you think, oh man, now, or even street altercations. To be honest with you, that's the same thing. You know, I've had experiences in my life where I've gone, oh, it didn't work. I mean, unfortunately, I made it out okay, but I remember years ago, I would dwell on it. You know what I mean? What did I do? Why didn't it work? This goes back to the development of SKS. Actually, I know we're kind of leading into different areas, but how do you keep that confidence? Because it's not the system, it's you. And so then you have to go, well, okay, I just don't know today, but I am confident that I'll get there. And if I get there, you'll get there. And if you're enhancing, like I said earlier, you're stamping your passport in society. If you can pass that on to somebody, you know, enhance their life, just makes your life experience better too. So, yeah, there's more, but I don't know. Confidence definitely number one. Number one.
Yeah.
And give it to yourself too.
You know what's funny? You mentioned 5 different teachers, right? And I actually have 5 teachers as well that I got more influenced by. You know, it was Mr. Tatum. You know, Larry was the first one, and then I was with Ed Parker Jr. for a while. He was a very good teacher for me. He taught me to see Kenpo from another perspective, the alternative way, he calls it. Then Rudy Toilozenga, and of course Papa Tino. But well, I was a student of Rudy. Mr. Tino wasn't teaching anymore. He was not doing well. Then the other one is Tim Bullitt. Tim Bullitt was the one that taught me all the tactics, the SWAT stuff, the weapons, and all that. And Hanshi Bruce Jugnick. So those are the 5 gentlemen that really made a difference. And one of the things that, you know, answering a little bit of what Catherine asked, that made me a better teacher from all of them is the love and passion that they have for the art, and the commitment they have to their students. All of them, you know, they all love their arts. They all have a passion for what they know and share, and they all are committed to their students. And I think that's also something to acknowledge and to admire and respect, you know, and to emulate, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean, if you're on the journey for a life journey with it, or you want to, if you're going to stay in it for a long time, you have to build that spiritual relationship. You know what I mean? That enhancing, free giving for free, for fun and for free, relationship with yourself and with your students and with your instructors. Because otherwise, you won't last. You know what I mean? It can't be about you. You have to be unselfish. You know what I'm saying? In order for the individual to progress individually, you have to be unselfish. You have to get out of yourself and give to others. The more you can give, the more you will receive. And it sounds a bit cliche, but it's true. You know what I mean? You have to be in touch with I'm not getting religious on people, but
no, that's
you got to be in. Yeah, you got to be in touch with with your maker and your spirituality, whatever you believe that is. I mean, that's your growth, because it's infinite. You know, it's that infinite. It's infinite. It's not. If we ever get to a point where we feel like, oh, I don't want to give anymore, or I don't think there's any more to be given, you may as well get out, right? Because it's going to get boring real quick. You're going to,
Interesting. Okay. let's see. Salvador Becerra says, hello, Mr. Frank Soto. Also your guest, Mr. Brye Cooper. I missed the interview with Mr. Larry Tatum. The interview, it's there on YouTube on the Kinetic Dragon channel. You can look it up and you will see it there. It's a good interview. Watch it. And there are also many good interviews with many talented martial artists and Kenpoists and seniors and all that. So try to watch them all. And you know, somebody was saying yesterday, one of the guests saying, watch it over and over. The different interviews, if you see them twice or at least more than once, you will find more info there that you might miss the first time. Okay. And there's a lot of knowledge. You know, I got to say, I have learned a lot from all the stuff that I've been doing and all the people that I have interviewed. I have learned a lot. Okay. So here's another gentleman, Maestro Joe Ribello. Gentlemen, enjoying your interview. I've also learned a lot from the interviews with Mr. Ribello, for example. He has a lot of knowledge, the encyclopedia of the martial arts. Yes, living encyclopedia of the martial arts for sure. And there's so much stuff that you learn and you understand by knowing, you know, the facts and all that. So good. So thank you for sharing that. And I got to ask you your first question, sir.
I'm on the spot now, right?
Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking, you know, every time I start doing the flyer and all that for the guests and stuff, I start, you know, thinking about not just the individual, but what they're going to say, right? Their angle, their approach to the arts. And your approach being the combative part, I was also thinking of putting a name to the section, like the combative corner with Maestro Cooper or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, I like that approach, but I got to ask, why combatives? Can you explain that? Can you, you know, just go deeper into that? Why the name combative? Why choosing street combatives or Kenpo combatives and creating a system of that?
Well, because when I came up through, I started my martial arts in Shotokan, which was basically more of a sport karate. I mean, it's effective. Don't get me wrong. Of course it is. But the difference between, for me, combatives and just doing like going into the dojo for a workout and learning some stuff is the mind. Combatives is a different mindset. For example, there was fear. We never address fear really vocally. We don't address it. Nobody had ever addressed it with me. You know what I mean? Like I've trained for years. Nobody ever said, okay, class, gather around. Today we're going to go over the psychologies of fear and how that will affect you in combat. Because combat is completely different than just doing a bit of fighting. If you look under the word, you know, define the word combat, it's completely different. It's a violent action. It's aggressive. So if you're going to train for those potentialities in life, those potential incidents in life, you have to train with that combative mindset. So if I, like, say I have American Kenpo training, I'm just going to speak for myself. I'm sure there's other people who are doing their own thing and have their own take on it. I've spent years training this. I'll give you an example. I've spent years training for a right hooking punch, and whatever the technique is you do. And I'm doing it. I'll give you an example, delayed sword. I've given you this example before. So I've done delayed sword, done delayed sword. And I'm years into it. I'm wearing a 5th degree black belt at the time, 5th or 6th. I might have been a 6th at the time. And my instructor, who was running the class I was in at the time, came up to me and says, and we weren't even doing this technique. He says, do delayed sword. And he did the attack. He didn't do it quick or anything. And I said, okay. So I stepped back and I went, and he goes, I said, all right, let me try that again. Now, I knew there was a lesson coming here, and it's an answer to your question. I'm going to answer answering your question too. So he did it again, and I wasn't moving quick, and I said, okay, what am I doing wrong? And it was as simple as saying, well, you're using the wrong driver. You need to be driving from here instead of from here. So I made that adjustment and went, bang. Now, I wouldn't, that is a combative mindset, is to look deeper into what's going on. if that makes any sense. Instead of just going, well, just shift your foot and do this. Without the knowledge, you won't have the intention. And I find with combatives, you're going to get more mental knowledge on how to do things, more knowledge of like psychologies of like, you know, if I was to say to somebody, when do you think your gross motor skills are going to, what time do you think your gross motor skills are going to go out the window? How many beats per minute when you get that adrenaline rush? Nobody's going to be able to answer. Not nobody, of course they won't. But majority of people are going to go, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I can tell you.
Well, I'm sure you can. Yeah. Well, when do you think you get over into like the, you know, high 90s into the hundreds?
I understand what you're saying. I mean, that's why I like this, because we think alike. Even though we address it in a little bit different way, we're addressing the same thing. And yes, I agree with you. That's why I'm asking. And the other thing I wanted to ask, just to go with this thing, it's about the same thing. So if you're teaching this combative mindset, right, and you're teaching them how to address fear, to address the adrenaline state, all of that stuff, for example, change the mindset and all that, what would be the goal? I'm sorry?
And tactics and strategies. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. But what would be the goal from what's the goal? What are you looking for the student to learn? What's the,
as opposed to not teaching combatives, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm talking about. I'm addressing your expertise and your system, because I think it's good.
Yeah, is to make you as effective as possible in a situation that could threaten, you know, your peace, your life, your family's life. The goal is to teach you, because people get confused too. People say, "Oh, you're teaching combatives," and it's like that's aggressive, and it's all this. And no, it's only aggressive when you get to that level, and that's the last level you get to.
You don't want to get there.
No, if you take somebody from, you know, who's trained martial arts in, let's say, a dojo, and they learn empty hand techniques, they learn weapons techniques. They may even go on the firing range and shoot firearms and get into that. But put them in a real life situation where if somebody pulls a knife on them or pulls a gun and puts a gun in their face, that training is going to go out the window.
I'm sorry, I just got to mention something. One of my guests here, I'm not going to mention his name, but he knows what I'm talking about because we talked this off the air. He said, when a person is, the term he used, I loved it, violence virgin. Right? Okay, so I think that's one of the main approaches that I like about what you're doing is you're not denying the fact that there's violence around us and you can be in an encounter of violence, and you have that acceptance, right? To quote Mr. Parker saying, acceptance is the first consideration in a fight, right?
What did he mean by that? He means like people who've never experienced it, right?
They never experienced violence, and they talk about it, or they don't know what they're talking about, or they think it's never going to happen to them. That type of mindset, and there are a lot of people like that. Thank God, right? It's good that you haven't been on the other end of violence, right?
That's an interesting point. It's actually interesting. If we can, I'll adjust that a little bit.
Please.
I think now I understand. I see what you're saying. A violence virgin. Two sides to that coin. Obviously, you don't have to go and experience violence to be able to be violent. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And also, you don't need to meet violence with violence. You don't. You need to meet violence or potential, because at the end of the day, there's always somebody better. You'll come unstuck one day, or if nothing else, you're not going to have a really good existence. People are not going to like you if you're just going around being violent. I mean, where I grew up, it was like that all the time. You know, everybody, when I was a kid, everybody had to be like, just everybody was just trying to survive. You know, you'd walk into the school and get punched in the face or kicked in the balls because it was fun for them. That's just what they did. It was just that mindset. But to be effective, and this just piggybacks on the combative side of it too. What I was going to say, just real quick, it addresses the same thing. You can take somebody who's trained in martial arts in the studio, but learned all this stuff. When it actually comes to a violent thing, even just a violent intention, not even that they're hitting you or stabbing you. It changes your mindset. It totally puts you to the deer in the headlights unless you don't have to experience it. You don't. You just have to understand it. You have to understand the physical and psychological effects it's going to have on you. And just as importantly, the flip side of that coin is to understand the guy who's doing it to you's mindset. What is, even if he's not conscious of it, you know, it's coming from back here somewhere. What effects he's trying to put you in. So when you train combat, or my combatives, I don't know what anybody else is doing. I'm only just speaking for me.
Right.
I've touched on this with you before. I think with I have these basic drills called button drills, and they work in coordination with the psychological knowledge that I teach of when to make your move. You know, I think I've talked to you before about the defense condition drills and the rapid evaluation decision drills we do. If what can happen is when what happens is you get an adrenaline rush. When you feel really threatened, your adrenaline is going to rush through, and it can be really fast, or it could slowly build. Your heart rate starts going up. You know, things happen to your body. Your hands start sweating. A lot of people have said that, you know, they feel like their arms just feel like, you know, lead. They don't know what to do, and they basically go for this. Once you get really into it, your heart's really racing, and you're no longer you get tunnel vision. You're going to get a tunnel vision. That's that deer in the headlights thing, and you'll either fight or flight, or you'll succumb. You know what I mean? You'll please, you know, you'll be passive with it, and then nobody wants that because it's not good for your psyche, and it's not good if you're trying to protect your family. If you have a knowledge of what's going on physiologically and psychologically, you're able to learn and use strategies that will help you either avoid it or not become effective in it. It will also, on the flip side of the coin, enable you to control that other person without even not all the time. If they've made their mind up, they've made their mind up. But that's ranging drills. There's sensitivity ranging drills that I teach, button drills, stuff like that, where you're going to have to go. You're just going to have to go. There's no you can't Q&A that when it gets to a certain point. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, so you don't need to know violence. You just need to know how it affects you and the consequences of it, and why they're doing it. I'll give you an incident that happened to me on Sunday. It didn't happen well, I was involved, but it wasn't a physical thing. I went to see the England game. Sadly, we lost. But I'm in this bar, and you know, I'm standing there because, you know, it was a sports bar with all the TVs, and I'm standing at the bar. It was packed, and there was an older gentleman there. He was having his beer. You know, I've known him from here in town. He's a good old boy. You know what I mean? He's like 80 something. He was with his friend, and you know, they were a bit buzzed, but they weren't hammered. And I was just standing there watching the game, having a coke, and a bunch of other blokes, as it got busier, came in. And I got talked to one of them, an Irish fella, you know. I'm like, oh, yeah, I really thick Irish accent. So I'm like, what? But he's chatting away, and he's going on, and then he's with another friend of his, you know, really tall guy. They were right about my age, a little younger. Anyway, cut a long story short, this gentleman, the Irish fella, he goes to the bathroom, and he had a beer, and he puts his beer down on the counter in between this older gentleman I told you about and his mate. You know, both these guys are like, one, I know this guy's in his 80s, one's in his 70s. Anyway, he puts the beer down, and I'm just watching the thing. He goes to the bathroom. Now, the older guy didn't do it deliberately. I just knew. He just sort of, he was drinking out of a plastic cup beer too. He's just, oh, yeah, he's watching the game, and he just reached his hand out, and it was in front of him, and he took it thinking it was his. Now, he didn't put it to his lips. He was about to. Well, the friend of the guy who went to the bathroom, he was a big boy too, he immediately got really aggressive. What the F are you doing? That's my friend's drink. Put that down. Took it up. That's not yours. And this fella, I'll tell you about too, this guy, he's 81. He's like 5'2". It's like, first off, I'm like, He's an old man. You know what you're doing. You know. Anyway, I'll get to the point of it. He started going on. The bloke was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I thought it was mine. I didn't know. And he goes, this is how fast things can escalate. And you can go into effect of. There's a moral to this stuff. There's a reason to tell story.
Right.
He goes, no, you're not. He goes, no, you're not. You're being a C. He called him this word beginning with a C. A lot of Brits use, you know, you're being this and that. And I was standing there. I finally went, hey, mate, you know what? He didn't. He's had a few drinks. He didn't mean anything by it. Just, you know, it's all good. It's fine. It's fine. And I just looked at him. Hey, look, he might have kicked my ass. I don't know. But the point is I made that and confronted it. And it confronted his aggression and his mental state. I could go into details with it of what that really means. And it's not going to work all the time. You know, he might have been so inebriated. He's just like, I don't care.
Right.
But I worked on his psychology and went, look, he's an old man. What are you doing? He was huge. And all of a sudden he went, well, you know, just... He starts watching the footy again. And then his friend came back and he obviously talked to him about it. And he said to me, he goes, oh, what's wrong with that? I said, yeah, he wasn't trying to battleship you. Battleshipping in England means drinking other people's drinks, you know, going around drinking it. Of course he wasn't. He was, oh, no. And he actually ended up talking to him. The point is this. You can de-escalate something really fast without being physical. If you know the mindset.
Yes.
If you know what's really going on, what the effects are, what the effects on you, because I'm in the environment too, right? And you don't, and if you have that knowledge, you won't succumb to it because, you know, it could have been the other way. I wouldn't have done this, but it could have been somebody, not me, who went two ways with it. Like, yeah, man, don't be stealing other people's drinks. And then it's like ridiculous. Or, hey, man, why are you picking on an old man? Pick on me, you know. And then it just gets stupid, doesn't it? Then it's just into that.
Of course.
Combatives, my approach anyway, and others too, I'm sure. I don't teach people, and this is, some people get a bit confusion with it about like, oh, it's this violent, aggressive thing. It's not. It's learning all these things, these psychological and physical indicators, and how to control them in the environment at that moment, so that it doesn't happen. If, like I said, if you take a martial artist who spent years, or a boxer in the ring, or not so much actually full contact fighters, unless they're punchy, most of them don't get into fights that I've met. There's some knuckleheads, of course. But you take those people, you know, or you take a martial artist, done all this stuff for years, and then put them in a real life situation with a gun, a knife, or something like that, or even just somebody who's reached down and puts his pint glass in his hand, because I know what that means. I've seen it done. It's coming. You know what I mean? You're going to get glassed, or he's thinking about it. That person, unless they know the psychologies and how to confront that, could become a victim of it, or more importantly, become a victim of themselves and their lack of understanding of how to handle the situation. If you have knowledge, you're going to be able to control yourself. You're not going to lose your cognitive abilities because your heart doesn't start racing. If you don't have that, you're gonna succumb to it. Maybe I'm going a little bit all over the place here.
No. So basically, okay. So what you're saying is you're teaching people to know how to operate, right, during a violent situation, right?
Yeah. If you take somebody and put them in the military, in a combat unit that, you know, they're in the infantry, whether it be Marine Corps, Army, whatever, even Navy, if you go Navy SEALs, but you know that you've joined this unit, or they're in that unit, and you're the trainer now. You're going to teach them this. You're going to teach them combatives. It's not in the Air Force. He's not an Air Force technician. You're not going to learn combatives because you don't need it. You're never going to get into that experience, into that situation. It's highly unlikely, anyway, that you're going to get into. Even artillerymen, they learn the basic rifle skills and all that, but they spend their time training them how to shoot artillery. They don't spend their time how to confront, you know, go on face-to-face combat. Well, that guy, so that guy's trained in the military. It's combative, right? He's trained, but he's not trained to just lock and load as soon as the first round goes off, or there they are, let's get them. He's not trained that way at all. It's the art of war, right? Sun Tzu. The best generals win battles by not fucking raising their sword. And yet all of a sudden the enemy's surrounded and they go, pardon the French, but they're like, you bastards, you surrounded us. All right, damn, we surrender. That's strategy, and you learn that from combatives. You don't learn that in mostly. I'm just speaking for myself. I didn't learn that in basic martial arts.
No, of course
I
not.
didn't. I mean, and I had when I was younger, and obviously I'm a lot older now, but I remember the street fights I had when I was a kid. Even pre-martial arts, I mean, just fisticuffs. I know it's different now. Everybody's carrying knives and guns and all that. But back in the day, it was just, punch on the nose and all that stuff. I didn't, if I'd known then what I know today, one, I probably wouldn't have got into those altercations. And two, if I did, I would have handled them a lot better. I wouldn't have ended up in jail like things that happened to me, or, you know what I mean? And then it has a psychological effect, not just on you. Your whole family's got to deal with the fact now that you're in cuffs, that you could be getting put down or stuff like that. You know what I mean? And
that's right.
Okay, if you're living that life, then good for you. Go live that life. But 99% of the people I train aren't living that life. And if I find out they are and they want that, it's stipulated in my thing when you sign a sheet. If you're all about that, I have the right to refusal. You're out. Because I'm not teaching you for that reason. If that makes sense. Well, it does make sense, but I'm a bit long-winded.
No, I got you.
Yeah. Gives you that extra in those situations. So actually, you're going to be hopefully less likely to get into a physical altercation than you are if you just think, well, I've just got to go because he's picked his fists up and that's how we do it in the dojo. It's how we do it in the ring. No, you don't have to do that at all. And also, too, if I may add, if you're training like to do kickboxing or boxing or full contact fighting sports, you are trained to actually do it, to go in and compete in competition against that other individual. It's a competition. You're trying to win trophies, right? Or win the gold belt or whatever. If you're training in combatives, you're not training for that at all. You're just training to win.
Right.
And the win is to survive. Is to survive and not just physically but mentally, so your ego doesn't get burned, because that can affect you for weeks, right? I've had that experience where carried it on my shoulders as a young man, that chip on the shoulder, you know what I mean? If you have these skill sets, you're going to function better into, not just in, hopefully you won't get into a confrontation, but in society. Also, too, just let's finish on it. But if it does come to that, it's not point karate. It's not tap out. It's not. You're in the street. Anything happens. Anything. I've seen it. I'm sure you have too. I know you've seen it. There's no time for this. Like I won't tell you again. I won't tell you again. I won't. Oh, damn. I was going to say I won't tell you again. You know what I mean? There's no time for that. You have to be trained in such a way that, like I said, you can have all these skill sets. You can be. How many techniques are there in Kenpo? And not that we would do those, but you're grafting them, but it's over 250 techniques, right? By the time you get to third black, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, with the extensions and what have
you.
Yeah,
154 and 96 extensions, 250 techniques, both sides is 500, yeah?
Yeah, right. And so you go, and if you want to, I never did both sides, but we're fair play to you. That's not going to count for anything. If you're just going to give somebody that, wait, I'm going to do it now. No, you're not. It's too late. It's too late. You're going to be finished. If you're going to have to move, you're going to have to be, there's a saying in boxing, be first. Be first. So then one has to recognize when the bells rang. Because prior to that, we're both still in our corners. We're in our corners getting warmed up, you know what I mean? And then ding, ding. As soon as you hear that bell ring, you know it's on.
Right.
And you're going to get hurt, or you're going to. What is the primary purpose of that? You got two fighters, right? Bob and Jim, Sarah and Jane. When the bell rings, what is their intention? To defeat the other one as quickly as possible.
Yep.
That's it. And the only way to do that is as effective and as under the rules, obviously.
Yeah, they want to win.
They got to be as effective as they can, and they're governed by these rules in order to do it.
Right.
But there are no. But And so you could win or lose, and if you get an L, you get a loss, you go, oh well, until next time. On the street, you can't do that. You can, or you could. It's up to you. I mean, I've told you this before.
But
not
see,
to get graphic.
but on the street, it's not about winning. It's about surviving.
And so, in order to survive, you have to be first. You can't get that buck fever. If that I don't know if you've heard that term before. Right. It's a hunting term where you get the deer in the sights.
Okay,
but you won't pull.
Hold on a second. We have people commenting, so let's just do that. Okay. Mastermind says, "Salute, Mr. Soto and Mr. Cooper." Thank you, sir. Maestro Nelson Pinto, real talk, gentlemen. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Nelson. Yep.
Okay. Nelson. International Hall of Fame says, "Saludos, maestros from Argentina." Saludos. Master Juan Martin Alvarez says, "Great show. Thank you, sir." Okay, let's see. We have two people commenting here. Okay. Danny Arnold says, "Getting into a bar fight in England is different than getting into a routine fight in the States. The number one thing people are brought into the emergency room in the UK is lacerations."
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And getting into a bar fight in Mexico, I don't suggest it. Just don't do it.
Although I have to say, it's different in it's maybe they're using different weapons. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's the drink culture. What he's talking about, those people getting glassed. It's a drink culture. And so there's a lot of people hitting people. When I was growing up, if you couldn't get your hand, they used to have these big thick beer glasses. They don't even use them anymore because they're so dangerous.
Right.
But it can be just as dangerous here. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, we had an incident down here in Hermosa Beach a couple of 3 weeks ago. I wasn't there because one of my locals put it on. And watching this guy, what they were doing to this guy, somebody filmed it. It's dangerous everywhere. You can't. And he was trying to be, oh no, this. Somebody came up, cold cocked him, and next thing he was swarmed.
Yeah. And I think the best thing is not to get into a fight anywhere, right? Any bar.
Yeah. So you gotta.
Let me bring another comment because we're gonna go out of time. Okay, Catherine says, "I consistently train with young men that seek physically aggressive contact. Of course, they need to channel it in my school. I can accommodate them with the full contact fighting. They can't get enough of it. But outside of class, they're feeling their chops like the kid in the pub. The young men I speak of don't have a father presence at home. I am a far cry from that present. I can only have my own female approach. Definitely a challenge. Thoughts?"
Well, here's something interesting. It's really interesting what Catherine just brought up there. If you get down to the basic of it, of men, it's just young men, testosterone. That's all it is. Now, we do have mental conditioning, of course, if they came, like she was saying, if they came from fatherless homes and they don't have role models or they haven't had a good education. And I'm not talking about education in the sense of I left school, I wasn't even 16. Although it was decent education, I'm talking about an education how to be in life. You know what I mean? How to behave. Right. If you get down to the basic, what they're actually doing is they're desperate for competition. They're trying to compete. It's inherent in all of us. They want to prove to themselves, even if they're not aware of it, that they're the alpha dog because the alpha dog gets to mate with the she-males. And that's the reality of it. You get the females, or you get, it's maybe not on their mind at the time, but that's all that is. And so we go, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? It's neither. It's neither. What you have to know as a teacher is it. Well, you don't have to, but you have to recognize that all they're actually looking to do is to get into some form of competition that will validate them as an individual being. They think it's because they want to be the top dog. It's not. I saw an interview with Michael Bisping is. He's a former UFC fighter from the UK. He won at one point. He won the middleweight title.
Right.
He's retired, and he was talking. He was talking the other day. It was a pre-fight before the Conor McGregor fight. The day before, he was talking on BT Sports, British Telecom Sports, And one of the I don't remember exactly how it went, but anyway, one of the interviewers asked him about. I think his son is a very good wrestler. He might be going for the Olympic team. And he was saying, "Oh, does he want to be in MMA? Your son?" And he goes, "Yeah, he's had a. I think he said he had a fight and he wanted or something in an MMA fight." And he goes, "Oh, I'm thinking about it, Dad." And he, would you train me? And he goes, "Well, would you train him?" And he goes, "Yeah, I would." And I knew what was coming. He goes, "But I don't know if I want him to do it." When I grew up, he was saying, when I grew up, and I totally related to it. He goes, and not to him, he's obviously had more experience than way more than I have. But he grew up in a very violent area of England. He was even fighting with bare knuckle, all that stuff, street fighting, purely to survive. And he said, I had this mentality of like, you know, I had to be this killer. I had to be that guy. I had to be the winner. If I found out somebody was tougher in the next town, I had to go over there and get into a fight with them. I needed to be that guy. He said, now he goes, that guy doesn't exist. He says, that's not who I really am. Because it's not really who I was. He goes, I was just trying to survive. Today, he's more of, he said, he's through his words, he said, I'm more of the uncle now. And I'm teaching these fighters that it's not about that. The martial arts and the fighting aspect, it's not about being a killer. Another great example would be Joe. It's about you. I've always said this to people. Who was your biggest, and you know this, Frank? I'm very competitive. I always have been. A lot of it came from insecurity as a young man, and I didn't have a good relationship with my father at the time. But the person I was competing against most was me. I was trying to prove to me that I'm legit, that I'm valid. You know, I have a place here. You don't need to do it through those type of actions. You know what I mean? You take fighters and watch them get into a boxing. When they first start boxing, you come in as knuckleheads. You know what I mean? They just want to fight. It happened to me. It doesn't take long before you get enough punches in the face, but it humbles you really quick.
Right.
And then you start to love it for what it is. That it enhances you as a being, as a spiritual being. And that's what it's all about. It's about, like Mike's saying, that guy's dead. That guy was never really me. The spiritual you, if you can take those students, and I know she wasn't really saying this, but if you have any problem students that are learning how to be, you think they're going to be overly physical and then take it out into the street, which happens. It does. Some people are knuckleheads. You can actually reverse that.
And I got to say something just to answer that question. Catherine, give them two things. Discipline and purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically what Mr. Cooper here is talking about. If you give them purpose, you can give them purpose through competition or through martial arts philosophy or the goal of the black belt, for example. And you, it doesn't matter if you're a female, right? Being a woman, it doesn't matter. You will still have that influence on those young men because they trust you, right?
100%.
And it's like what you said earlier on the podcast. They're there for you. The student is there because of you, right? So your students, Catherine, Guru, are there for you, right? Because they trust you and they believe in you and they like what you're teaching them. So a lot of discipline, because discipline will end up generating self-control. It will give them the skills and the abilities to control that violence eventually. And I know it's a process, right?
Yeah.
Right. And the purpose will help and channel that in a good way or a positive way. Because the problem with violence is it generates chaos. It's all over the place. But if you make it, instead of violence, you create a force, right? Make them strong, make them confident, make them secure of themselves, or right? Then you give them that purpose, and then that will change. That's the magic of the martial arts, right? So let me, before we continue, because I know you will, let me just say that there's some comments here. Okay. Grandmaster Nathaniel Ortega, aloha. Aloha, my friend. Okay. Let's see. Nickerson Jose Ramirez, hello. Martial salute from Venezuela, representing the system Met Combat Do. My respects. Respeto, saludos, gracias, Nickerson. Okay. Montasser Noor said, salute, my brothers. I'll watch later. Very much appreciated. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good man.
Catherine says, thank you both. A zillion great ideas floating my brain. Amazing. Great. And we have one more comment here. Danny Arnold says, Mr. Cooper is exactly right. I witnessed a buddy from London who worked on the fishing boats here in America, glass an aggressor. The fight was over that fast. Oh, of course. Yeah. Okay. And Mastermind says, yes, I had a student that thought he was tough guy, but when he had different outlook after he left my door. There you go. Okay, cool. So I'm sorry, you were saying, please.
Yeah, again, it's just recognizing that, people just want validation. If you look at kids, put up 2-year-olds, half a dozen 2-year-olds from all walks of life into a sand pit, unless they've already been traumatized. But, if they haven't, they're going to play together because it's a spirit of play. That's the social human interaction. As you watch kids as they get older, if they start getting more violent tendencies, they're not inherent. They're learned.
Right.
They're learned. They're environmentally conditioned or what have you. So by the time they get to that point, they could be, wolves or and some people take that as the dogs. They'll take that and use it for good, and some will take it and use it for bad. But the bottom line is anything that's learned can be unlearned. Right. Anything that's taught can be taught. You know what I mean? So I have had in my life experiences with people who met people who were very violent men, especially in England. You know what I mean? When I was growing up, they just were, and scary people. If you didn't know them and you watch what they were doing, you'd be like, Jesus, you know what I mean? Because they were just mad. And yet, I always got along with all of them because I always had this ability in myself to just be able to look past what they just did. A lot of other people saw it and go, yeah, that's their identity. And it isn't. It isn't. Most of them, when you get down to it, were like just like me and you. They were teddy bears. Nobody really wants to be that way. Even the ones that tell you that they do, they're sociopaths. They need help. Most of them who behave in that way, if you really get down to put them on the therapist chair couch, they'll all end up drawing down here talking about they lost their dad or their mom or something like that. Going back to what we started with here is teaching, the influences of the gentleman I mentioned at the top of the show. That's another thing too, the humanity that they give to you, that you get. You learn how to address the humanity of it. You know what I mean? Because the physical is not the spiritual. There's two different things. One can't operate without the other. But, I should say the physical can't operate without the mental. It just can't. The spiritual, it just can't. And so if you wanted to take somebody and calm them down, like we've had as instructors, we've had problem kids come in, and even adults, and they've come in, knuckleheads or whatever. They just want to learn to fight, and then before you know it, within a few, even maybe days, weeks, months, they're like completely different. And that is because one of the reasons is not just because of what you're teaching them and so on. I guarantee you, 99% of that, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but this is my opinion, is because they feel they found a home and a family. They feel like they can be themselves. You give them the ability to trust again. Because if you look at violent people, it's like most of those people are not. They're not trusting. They don't trust people. And consequently, if you don't trust people, you won't trust yourself.
Right.
So if you can look, and by the way, that's part of learning combatives too. It's part of my approach.
Great.
You have to manipulate it. You have to be careful. You know what I mean? Because you can't overload somebody or give them too steep a gradient. But if you see it, you can. That's what makes great teachers too. That's Excellent. What makes that gives you the goosebumps, right? When you've turned somebody's life around.
Well, great, my friend. We've been at it for an hour, so thank you very much. This was good. Thanks to everybody that commented on this and everybody that watched this. Thank you so much. This was great, Maestro Cooper. You're the man. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. No, this was good. This was really good. I hope I learned a lot from it today. I can say that much. Okay, so thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you back here next week. You have a great rest of the week and a great weekend. You take care of yourself. Remember, this thing hasn't been over. Keep your safe distance. Keep your safety protocols. And take care of your health. Exercise, train, do some combatives stuff or some Kenpo for the street. Yes, that's also good. And we'll see you back here again. Okay. Nathaniel saying, okay, sir, thank you. And take care, my friend.
Thank you.